This is America, land of beauty and richness, of prosperity and abundance. A land where free people work, relax, and worship, exercising their freedom and meeting their responsibilities in the manner of their own choosing. A land made of people are its strength. Solid, responsible people with strong family, community, and national ties, proud of their heritage and the freedom they enjoy. Throughout America's history, the family unit has been the backbone of this great nation, and the family unit still remains the most influential factor in the people's lives. This is especially true with regard to the education and guidance of children. But it is not just the family that exerts influence and has impact on young people. In the home, television, if permitted to do so, can exert considerable influence on young minds, eager for knowledge and burning with a natural curiosity of every fact. Outside the home, they are exposed to racks of lewd magazine boards, posters, and signs, theater marquees, blatant sexual enticements aimed at the adult mind that can hardly help but stimulate the curiosity of young people. A strong sense of moral values is vital if impressionable youth are to resist this avalanche of sexual enticements. Providing the training that can create such moral values is a responsibility of the parents. It is not a responsibility that should be neglected, any more than that of providing food, shelter, and clothing. For when parents do shirk these responsibilities, it is the children who suffer. Life is a continuing series of new adventures for children. They grow physically and emotionally as they go through the perplexing and difficult years of growing up. And most emerge as fine, responsible young adults, ready to take their place in this society of free people. But an increasing number seem to falter during those difficult years. They fall victim to their stimulated curiosity in the sexually saturated atmosphere in which they find themselves, and their lives become permanently scarred by the tragedy. The number of young people who become involved in sex-associated tragedies is increasing. Many parents, concerned that their children might fall victim next, begin searching for an easy answer, a simple solution to the problem. From every direction, articles in slick magazines with circulation in the millions, Life, Look, McCall's, Saturday Evening Post, and others, claim that young people lack adequate knowledge in matters of sex, and all appear to urge the same solution: sex education. Sex ed courses in the public schools, beginning in kindergarten, is offered as the panacea for the problem. The advocates of these courses insist that parents are unwilling and too incompetent to educate their own children in the matter of sex, that it must be done by the experts. They claim that instructing children in matters of sex is now the responsibility of society, the schools, in simplest terms, the government, for schools are essentially an agency of the government. So, once again, the battle lines are clearly drawn in the seemingly endless struggle for control between the individual and government, which is always eager to expand its power. The terms sex education and sex courses are misleading to most of today's adults. They recall their school days and biology classes where an explanation of male and female anatomy constituted what was considered sex education. The sex ed courses of today are something radically different. The courses deal with the emotional and psychological aspects of sex, becoming, in fact, lessons in the art of living and loving. Every facet of sexual relations between people, normal and abnormal, is explained and explored in vivid detail through the use of movies, film strips, photographs, and drawings. Thus, during their most impressionable years, children are exposed to every aspect of sex. The advocates of such courses not only insist that children need such information, but also that the information be given without any moralizing, any representation of right or wrong. Time of Your Life, prepared by KQED Instructional Television Service in San Francisco, is a series of films used in schools at the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade levels. The series is designed to be broadcast directly into the classroom on special TV channels. The national distribution rights to Time of Your Life were recently assigned to NIT, National Instructional Television Center in Bloomington, Indiana. Apparently, this tax-exempt group with offices in San Francisco, Milwaukee, and Boston is better equipped to get time of your life into more schools. The following excerpt describes sexual intercourse for groups of boys and girls as young as age 9. Quote, "When a couple has sexual intercourse, they are usually lying down very close to each other and usually in a bed. They usually start by kissing and holding each other. Each person, the husband and the wife, gets a very strong feeling of love for the other and excitement in being together. The man's penis has an erection and the woman's vagina becomes moist or wet. At this point, as the couple is lying very close together, and because the penis of the man is designed by nature to fit into the vagina of the woman, the man gently but firmly pushes his penis into his wife's vagina." End quote. It goes on to describe how, for its audience of impressionable, curious, 9 to 12-year-old boys and girls. While NIT, the distributor of Time of Your Life, is anxious to relay the mechanics of sexual intercourse to children, they do an abrupt about-face when it comes to the parents. Apparently, only those whom the distributor classifies as officials of schools planning to embark on a sex ed program may preview the films. National Instructional Television Center is headquartered in Bloomington, Indiana, at 317 East 2nd Street, with sales offices in Boston, Milwaukee, and San Francisco. Parents viewing this film are invited to contact NIT direct and attempt to obtain Time of Your Life for viewing. Time of Your Life is not unique in sex ed courses in public schools across America. Many films just as graphic and just as vivid expose youth to every phase of sexuality. However, films are but a part of these courses. Occasionally, students in some classes, rather than just being observers, actually participate in classroom demonstrations of the art of livin' and lovin'. Parents in Madison Heights, Michigan, were outraged to learn that during a sex ed course in a local school, a group of boys and girls in their teens were herded into a darkened room and then told to touch, feel, and embrace each other. After the lesson, they were asked to write about the sensations they had felt. In Flint, Michigan, a local sex educator became so engrossed with the subject that she stripped in front of her class. In response to complaints from local parents, the school board praised the teacher and said her intentions were in the best interests of her class. Young people subjected to the sex ed courses are quizzed to see just how well they are learning their lessons. The following questions are from a nationally distributed sex knowledge quiz for teenagers beginning in the 9th grade. Number 15. When she is sexually excited, a woman's clitoris may be noticeably enlarged and quite firm. What is likely to happen to the enlarged clitoris as the woman progresses in sex desire to readiness for sex relations? Number 18. Of the following, which is the best position for sex relations? Number 46. When consistently and intelligently used as directed by a competent authority, which of the following is an effective method of birth control? Number 72. What is the effect of masturbation on sex desire, on capacity to reach orgasm, and on ability to cause pregnancy or to become pregnant later in life? Questions from the students are encouraged, and the stimulated curiosity of young minds can run rampant. Following are a few of the questions placed in their classroom question box by students in the sex ed courses in an Anaheim, California high school. What happens to a girl who gets PG by a donkey? How does it happen? Does she have a baby or what? What is the sexual act of homosexuals? What do you do when the penis gets caught in the vagina? Exactly what does 69 mean? These questions illustrate the stimulated curiosity of young people, and all their questions on sex are answered in vivid detail, but without any foundation of the morality that is the basis for any solid personal and family life. In the March 1969 issue of American Opinion magazine, Dr. Max Levin, the noted New York psychiatrist, is quoted concerning such a baseless approach to the subject of sex. There cannot be emotional health in the absence of high moral standards and a sense of human and social responsibility. I know that today morality is a dirty word, but we must help our youth to see that moral codes have meaning beyond theology. They have psychological and social. There is an enormous gap between courses for youth which offer anatomical studies of the human body and courses that describe in words and with visual aids how to perform the ultimate acts of sex. A logical question would be, who is it that seems so anxious to gain control and manipulate the thinking of American youth in the matter of sex? Just who is promoting the sex ed courses? Most of the community leaders and others who seem to favor moving sex instruction from the home to the schoolhouse are undoubtedly sincere, concerned, and upset. They are disturbed over the problems they see, and in their concern, accept the solution being offered by the sex ed experts. But across the nation, a large and rapidly expanding number of groups and organizations, national and local, have mushroomed up from nowhere and are trumpeting the demand for sex education in the schools. They present a maze of confusion, but an examination of the material used by many of these groups and the people who control the groups is very revealing. A close look shows that one group turns up time after time. SIECUS, Sex Information and Education Council of the United States, with headquarters in New York City. SIECUS, formed in 1964 by a small band of like-minded sex ed advocates, enjoys tax-exempt privileges and has received millions of dollars from tax-exempt foundations and the United States government. In just a few years, this New York City-based organization has become clearly the most influential group working to move control of sex instruction from the home to the school. SIECUS publishes a newsletter, numerous pamphlets, and by recommendation puts its stamp of approval on a wide range of books, pamphlets, teachers' guides, and films. The individuals who control SIECUS seem to turn up constantly as advisors, consultants, and even directors of many of the other groups of sex ed advocates. Heading SIECUS as executive director is Dr. Mary S. Calderon, a founder of SIECUS after 11 years as medical director of the Planned Parenthood Federation of America. Dr. Calderon, described by Saturday Evening Post as a sweet-faced, silvery-haired grandmother with the evangelical fervor of Joan of Arc, travels the length and breadth of America, again in the words of the Saturday Evening Post, to preach the SIECUS gospel to representatives of the local power structure. This is the Dr. Calderon who, speaking to a group of several hundred young boys at Blair Academy in New Jersey, declared, "What is sex for? It's for fun, that I know, for wonderful sensations. Sex is not something you turn off like a faucet." This is the same Mary Calderon who has proclaimed that the "thou shalt nots" no longer apply. Feeling thusly, it is not surprising to discover that she is strongly opposed to moral concepts of right and wrong being included in the sex ed courses she advocates. One might reject Dr. Calderon's so-called logic, even question her sincerity, but to overlook her importance would be tragic. For this sweet-faced, silvery-haired grandmother is an amazingly effective super saleswoman for the sex ed promoters. Dr. Lester A. Kirkendall, a professor at Oregon State University, is another of the roving band of sexologists promoting the SIECUS brand of sex ed for youth. Kirkendall reportedly believes that any absolute moral standards are unthinkable, except for the absolutism of non-restraint. In numerous speeches, he stresses that sex education for youth must not be moral indoctrination. In some ways, Dr. Kirkendall is a very practical person. On the question of how to get the courses into the schools over the objections of local parents who supply the children and the money, Dr. Kirkendall's advice is to, quote, "just sneak it in," end quote. Another key pulpiteer for SIECUS is Dr. Isidore Rubin, one of the founders of SIECUS. He has also been its treasurer since its inception. Dr. Rubin is in the sex-promoting business in a big way. He is editor of Sexology magazine. This monthly bit of blatant hardcore sex exploitation features articles with titles such as Sex Pleasure from Cruelty, The Need for Sex Variety, Sex Relief for Widows, Secrets of Lovemaking, and many more. The earlier discussed Dr. Kirkendall is also on the staff of Sexology as parent guidance editor, and recently stated that with a change of cover and title, Sexology would be suitable for use in his brand of sex ed courses for the schools. Reverend William Genet, Dr. John Money, and Dr. Wardell Pomeroy, each an influential member of the SIECUS group, along with Dr. Kirkendall, occupy 4 of the 11 positions as consultants on Sexology magazine. This list of consultants with their strings of degrees may be impressive to some people, but magazine stand operators place Sexology magazine right where it belongs, with the nudie, lewd, smut magazines. Dr. Isidore Rubin, treasurer of SIECUS and editor of Sexology, is the same Isidore Rubin fired from a teaching position in New York City schools when he refused to deny or confirm his membership in the Communist Party. The same Isidore Rubin who was editor of New York Teacher News, published by the New York Teachers Union, expelled from organized labor by the CIO, Congress of Industrial Organizations, as being communist-controlled. And the same Isidore Rubin who, in this congressional report, is identified as a dues-paying member of the Communist Party in sworn testimony by Mrs. Mildred Blovelt, a New York Police Department undercover agent within the Communist Party. Rubin, Kirkendall, Calderon, and their cohorts crisscross the nation, constantly expounding the SIECUS slant, in speeches, interviews, and articles extolling the virtues of detailed sex courses with no holds barred. Sweden is their most often cited example of how an enlightened nation meets the problem of preparing youth to accept the responsibilities of life. Let us look closely, then, at their example. The people of Sweden labor under the heaviest taxes in the world because the government in their welfare state has grasped responsibility for all the basic necessities of life. Since no government is productive, the handouts can be given only by seizing from the people, through taxation, the wealth they are producing. Sex instruction in Sweden schools began over 20 years ago and was introduced through the classic two-step method. First, the courses were completely voluntary, but within a decade, they had become compulsory. Sex instruction starts with kindergarten. Every emotional and psychological aspect of sex is presented, but without the introduction of any moral concepts of right and wrong. Sexual intercourse between unmarried young people is presented as acceptable. Masturbation is not only acceptable, but a desirable means of relieving tension. Having an illegitimate baby is nothing to be ashamed of. Youths are instructed in use of every manner of contraceptive device and may obtain them without cost. But moral concepts of right and wrong, rejected. Birgitta Liner, Swedish authoress of Sex and Society in Sweden, is often quoted in the United States as an outstanding authority on sex ed in Sweden. Her book is an enthusiastic endorsement of the system, but she admits that there are still a few problems. In Sweden, 1 of every 3 brides is pregnant on her wedding day. Of every 8 babies born in Sweden, 1 is illegitimate. Think of that. 1 of every 3 brides is pregnant on her wedding day. And of every 8 babies born in Sweden, 1 is illegitimate. Dr. Kirkendall, writing in the preface to Sex and Society in Sweden, concurs with Mrs. Liner's conclusion that the sex courses in the schools of Sweden have not encouraged young people to experiment in matters of sex. Unless pregnancy in Sweden is brought about by some means other than intercourse, Mrs. Liner's and Dr. Kirkendall's conclusion concerning sexual experimentation by the youth of Sweden is absolutely incredible. Venereal disease among young people in Sweden has been described as catastrophic. New cases of gonorrhea increasing over 100% in just 6 syphilis, increasing over 600% in the same period. Hardest hit have been girls in the 15 to 19-year-old age group. This is the other side of the coin to the example our sex ed promoters cite. If this is what American parents want for their children, the tragic example of Sweden clearly shows that sex ed courses in the schools will help bring it about. Audio-visuals for sex ed courses in the schools has become big business. As if by magic and almost overnight, a deluge of films, film strips, and slide presentations have appeared. This should not be surprising, for the law of supply and demand actually works. As demand for a product or service increases, producers respond automatically by increasing the supply. Supply always adjusts itself in response to any change in the demand. The demand for audio-visuals to teach America's youth about sex is growing rapidly. But is this growth in demand a natural phenomena or the results of some artificial stimulation? This colorful and highly professional brochure describes for school administrators the many films available from Guidance Associates, a division of Harcourt, Brace, and World. It also hastens to point out that any and all of the films listed may be purchased by schools under various federal aid to education programs. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act, Titles 1, 2, 3, National Defense Act, Title 3, and the Vocational Education Act. It is government who is stimulating the demand for sex ed films by offering to the schools millions of tax dollars, dollars specifically designated for the purchase of audiovisuals. Rushing to fill this artificially stimulated increase in demand for sex ed films are many of America's largest corporations. IBM, 3M, and Harcourt, Brace, and World are but a few. In a wild scramble to grab a share of the multi-million-dollar market, they pour forth this deluge of films, film strips, and slide presentations. Sex, a moral dilemma for teenagers. A film strip from Guidance Associates is cleverly designed to help convince young people that they need sex instruction free from parental control. Listen closely to the message it presents to young people.
I wish I could approach my parents on the topic, but I just can't.
Well, morality is really a set of rules that society has set up. And these rules were set up a long time ago. And the same with the sex rules. They were set up by society and they're ridiculous. They have no meaning for me because really the advances in science and medicine and everything like that, it just makes the whole thing ridiculous.
Morality for so long has just, been what it is, and people have accepted it. But now our generation has changed. We don't accept it anymore, and we try and bring it out in the open where it should be. But people like our parents and things, they don't accept that because we're breaking that morality. But I think it's right that we should bring it out in the open.
The message it presents is clear. Parents do not understand their children and cannot help them with their problems or answer their questions. Present moral standards are outmoded and completely new standards are needed. This is the SIECUS slant. However, this should not be too surprising.
My name is Mary S. Calderon. I'm a physician.
Dr. Calderon, Executive Director of SIECUS, narrates and was consultant for the film. In films from company after company, the SIECUS slant appears. But in every phase of the spread of sex ed courses, another, an even more ominous presence is noted. Government, by giving tax dollars to groups such as SIECUS, has been instrumental in promoting the idea that sex instruction courses are needed in the schools. Government, by giving tax dollars for the purchase of audiovisuals, has stimulated the demand and thus triggered the production of films for the sex instruction courses. Government, with tax dollars, was instrumental in creating NIT, the largest distributor of films for classroom TV broadcasting. Prior to September 1968, NIT was known as the National Center for School and College Television and received direct government subsidies in 1965, 1966, and 1967 from the Department of Education. Promotion, production, and distribution. The hand of government influence is in each. In a society of free men and women, the exercising of self-restraint is the key to responsible freedom. Free men and women choose to not do certain things, some from fear of punishment, but most because of their moral concept of right and wrong. Sex instruction, without the presentation of moral concepts of right and wrong, provides knowledge and stimulation for impressionable youth without providing the moral reasons why they should exercise self-restraint in matters of sex. Such courses become conditioning that enables young people to accept the rampant sexual immorality of the hippie world as a way of life. A foot in the door is usually the first step for the promoters of the sex courses, and they go to almost any lengths to achieve this vital first step. They know that the courses once gotten into the schools can be updated, modified, and expanded to just what they desire. Occasionally, they attempt to move on a statewide basis. In January 1969, during the 47th General Assembly in Colorado, State Representatives Mullen, Cooper, Hamilton, Lamb, and J.E. Newman introduced House Bill number 1082, which would make sex education courses mandatory for all public schools in Colorado. However, the most intensive sex course promotion is aimed at the local school district level. This type of piecemeal expansion enables the sex courses to penetrate into a rapidly growing number of schools while the promoters face only local, usually unorganized opposition. What the sex ed promoters fear most is a nationwide surge of awakened and aroused parents. Parents who oppose their goals and are willing to join in the battle to determine who is to control the training of young people in matters of sex. To join in this battle and to be effective requires knowledge as well as concern. Go to your local schools and see if sex ed courses are being presented. The courses you should look for go under numerous names: life adjustment courses, family life education, family living courses, and many others. Sometimes sex instruction is presented not as a separate course, but as a part of social problems, physical education, and of course biology. Find out just what is being presented in your local schools. Whether courses in the art of livin' and lovin' have gotten into your schools or not, look for and join with others in your community who share your concern. Concerted action will increase your chances of getting such courses out and keeping them out of your schools. But freedom is a two-sided coin. Rights are but one side. Responsibilities are the other. To demand the freedom to exercise a right and then not attempt to meet the corresponding responsibility is not responsible freedom. Parents should assist their children to understand the normal, but often mystifying, physical and emotional changes in life. This means answering questions at the time they are asked, at the level of maturity of the child, and providing that vital moral concept of right and wrong in the question of sexual activities. If to meet this responsibility requires that parents read some books and otherwise invest a little of their time, that is the demand that freedom makes. For every right, a responsibility. Youth of today will become the leaders of tomorrow. How well they are able to lead when their day arrives depends to great extent on how their parents met the responsibilities of parenthood. Our children have been entrusted into our care. The struggle continues between those who believe in parental responsibilities and those who seek to seize control of the thinking of America's youth. Join in this struggle today, for the future of your children and your nation is at stake.